Hey guys, it's me, Seren, back with another video. So this is going to be part 2 of my Roots review recap. I'm going to go over episode 2. Hopefully this one's a little bit shorter than the first one because I feel like a lot of what I wanted to say I kind of got out in that first video. So let's just jump right into it. So episode 2 pretty much starts off 10 years ahead of where episode 1 left off. So episode 1 left off with him getting beaten to take the name Toby. So episode 2 opens with this voiceover that says for 10 years Kunta waited for the opportunity to escape again, and it opens up and it's 1782, I believe. Don't hold me to that, but I think it's 1782, 1786, somewhere around there. And it's the Revolutionary War. So as we all learned in school, the Revolutionary War is when America pretty much revolted and rebelled against England, against the British. They fought Europe for their independence, for their freedom. And there is a really cool scene in this episode where after the Revolutionary War is won, as we all know, the Americans won, so they were no longer, colonial. They became their own country, the United States of America. And there's a scene where Kunta Kinte and some of the other slaves, Massawaller slaves, are driving through a town with Massawaller in the wagon, and somebody's like, the war is over, we're free. And all these white people are like, we're free, we're free, we're free, freedom, liberty, freedom for everyone, freedom for all men. And you literally see the slaves just sitting there looking like, really, bitch? Really? And I think there's some dialogue about it, which I'll probably get to a little bit later because I jumped to that a little bit early. But yeah, so it's the revolution. So when we open, it's the Revolutionary War, and Kunta's still trying to run away. He's still running away. He's still running away. And the voiceover says something and he never stopped waiting for his opportunity to run away. He's still trying to run away, even though it's been 10 years. Even though they brutally beat him to get him to take the name, he's still running away. Listen, this is some old bullshit, and as long as I can physically run, I'm going to keep motherfucking running. So he runs away. He ends up coming across this British regiment, because again, it's the Revolutionary War, and he says to them, because now he speaks English, he speaks perfect English, he's like, I will kill many Americans for your king. Let me know what you need me to do, I will do it. And they tell him, okay, if you join our regiment, you'll get papers stating that you're free, according to the English government, right? So, and as of right now, America answers to the English government. So if the English had, win the war, you'll be free. But he specifically does say, because Kunta asked something and I'll be free everywhere in the state of Virginia, and he says you'll be free everywhere that recognizes the British government or something like that. So even that in and of itself, there's this catch 22, right? Which is how it always is when you're dealing with white people, right? Catch motherfucking 22. So he goes to the regiment, he goes to the what is it called? The camp. He goes to the camp, and he sees that there's actually a lot of black people, runaway slaves, as well as free men, and also Native Americans, which I thought was such a nice touch, because Native Americans and Black Americans have a real shared history, and it's something that you don't normally see represented as often as it should be. But we have a shared history. I know it's a joke at this point, yeah, I got Native American in my family, whatever, which is just getting into politics about good hair and bad hair and all this other kind of stuff. But, they actually showed in this episode that there are, runaway slaves, there are freedmen, and there are indigenous people all working together. When I visited St. Augustine, which is in Florida, and I visited Fort Mose, which was the first free black town in the United States of America, and Fort Mose predated the Revolutionary War, actually. So Fort Mose, I want to say it was established in the mid-1700s, and they successfully defended themselves against the British as well as the Spaniards multiple times before the Revolutionary War ended up happening, and before was what's the name of that war? I'm so sorry, I should know this. I want to call it the Mexican War. Please let me know what the name of the war is that was ended up fought for the United States to kind of get Florida from the Spaniards, even though Florida itself had its own indigenous people that were literally wiped out, which I talked about. I think I did a video on Fort Mose. I want to say I did, but if I didn't do a video, Florida did also have its own indigenous people that were literally wiped out by the Europeans, by the Spaniards. So just know that. But anyways, there is a shared history between Black Americans and indigenous peoples in this country, and that's, again, not something that you really see very often. A lot of the times you have slave narratives, Black American narratives, and then you have like Native American narratives, and Native American narratives are like, like Wild Wild West type, but you have like specific types of quote unquote narratives for like Native Americans and their relationships to like white people, and then you have like certain types of narratives for like Black Americans and like their relationships to white people. But there are not a lot of narratives showing how we intermingled and how we intermixed. And Fort Mose was the first free Black town, and it also had a large Native American population of Blacks and Native Americans living together. Of course, I will put links in the description box for anyone that wants to read more about Fort Mose. So Kunta goes to the camp where he sees runaway slaves, he sees free men, free Black people. When I say free men, I'm talking about, well, I'm going to say in this scene there were only men, but when I say free men, I do also mean men and women. He sees, free people, and he sees the indigenous people, and he sits down with them, and they're all kind of talking. And one man, a Native American, is like, he says, like, everywhere white people go, like, they bring death and destruction, everywhere they go. They decimated my people. We fought 3 wars with them, and we've signed 3 peace treaties, and all have brought death. Like, there's no reasoning with them. Basically, on some, they're fucking savages. Like, they're savages. On some, Pocahontas, you call me the ignorant savage, but look at you. Look at you. You over here killing people, looking for gold that you don't even know is here or not. Like, look at you. That's basically the gist of the conversation that they had. Really, really interesting scene. And they also spoke about how the white men that fight for King George, white Americans, are allowed to keep their slaves, which was, again, another great distinction. Even though they will allow, runaway slaves and free men and Native Americans, indigenous people to fight for them, the white people that fight for them are still allowed to keep their slaves. So again, catch-22, still this idea of you're a second-class citizen. We appreciate that you're willing to put your body in, the line of fire for our cause, but you're still a second-class citizen. So, like, don't get it twisted. So, anyone that was still enslaved, they received clothes and they received freedom papers, and they put them in these vests that say, like, freed slave, or, like, liberty. They, like, said something on the front. And basically, again, but it's like, this is only gonna matter if you come across someone that supports the king, which we see later on in this episode, means that shit doesn't fucking count for much. So, after they get their battle clothes, their army clothes, Kunta meets another boy in the camp, a young boy named Carlton. He has one eye, and he reveals that his former master put out a cigar in his eye for crying when his mother and sisters were sold. He said, I ran away the next day after that, and, I made it to this encampment. And again, imagine the savagery, the brutality. We see these white people of this era, 1700s, 1800s, they want to talk about, the gentry and the southern gentry, and they're so dignified, and they're so refined. And I will say that this series goes out of its way to parallel the white people that are supposedly so refined and dignified with the Black people that are supposed to be slaves, and really showing how, in actuality, the Black people were the ones that were the most dignified. They were holding on to their dignity. They were holding on to their self-respect. They were holding on to their love, the love that they felt, for their Black family and for their husbands and their wives and their children. They were holding on to that in the face of, this most atrocious practice, Meanwhile, these white people who pretend that they're so dignified and they're so, and we have all these rules and we're gentlemen and we dress in these clothes. And these white people are really, that they're the real savages and animals and beasts. That they're the ones with this savage nature. You put out your cigar in somebody's eye for crying when their mother and sisters were sold. You're a savage. You're an animal. You have no heart. You have no empathy. And you have all that disguised in this clothes and this hair and this and this that. And the people that you're calling animals have more dignity than you. And the series really hammers that shit home. It really does hammer the idea home. I'm sure I'm going to mention that again in recaps of other episodes because it was something that I kept noticing again and again. So when Kunta meets the boy Carlton, I thought it was really interesting that he shook his hand because we've never seen Kunta do anything like that before. We've never seen anyone in Jufure do anything like that. So that's something he has learned since being in America. We already see, and that's not something he consciously, we never see a scene of Fiddler sitting him down and saying now we shake hands. That's something he picked up. That's something he subconsciously picked up, from seeing the way that these white people interact and, just he observed it and something subconsciously sunk into his brain. I meet someone, I shake hands. So I thought that was really interesting too, because just like I've talked about before in other videos, like my Yes All White People video, people love to act like they can opt out. They can opt out of behavioral, societal ideas and concepts about everything, about race, about etiquette, about gender, sexuality, respectability, all these things, patriarchy, all these things are already, ingrained within the system, within the society that we live in. And from the time that, again, we're born, from the time that we are in this society, and even adults, even people that transplant into this, Western American society, you start being influenced. And it has to be a conscious effort made every day to unlearn that influence. It's extremely important. You can't just opt out, So moving along, the black people and the Native Americans are given pikes to fight with, not guns, and they're ordered into battle, on the front lines. And Kunta literally says, they have guns. We don't have guns. You refuse to give us guns because you don't want to give black people and indigenous people weapons. So basically, you're ordering us to die. They're sending them in as the decoy almost. Use up all your ammo on them, kill all of them, and then we're gonna come in, the second wave with our guns or whatever. So the battle starts, and what happens? They are massacred. They're pretty much massacred. So Kunta's like, fuck that. He grabs Carlton. They escape into the water because this battle is happening over a bridge. So they escape into the water. And he tells him, he hides him behind a tree. And he says, wait until I find a safe space. Kunta goes out and he kills 2 white men for a boat. Oh, and trust and believe, this is not the first white person that Kunta kills. He, kills some white British dude in the woods. He, kills some other person. This is not no meek, docile, yes, massa. This is I'm doing what I have to do. I'm trying to escape. I'm trying to get out of the situation. I'm trying to get my freedom. I'm trying to fight back. I'm doing whatever needs to be done. It's very much. I was reading a review that said that, this is definitely a post-Django Roots, because Django was very much like a revenge tale, and this version of Roots is also similar, and there's a lot of action and there's a lot of killing. It's definitely not just like you're sitting here watching as things happen to Kunta. No. Kind of like I said in my first video, this is not something where you're just watching things happen to these black people. They definitely have. They have been invested with a sense of agent. Ooh, I knocked my table. Sorry, guys. They've been invested with a sense of agency in this depiction. And it's awesome. And it's really, really, really nice to see. So Kunta kills these 2 white dudes. He comes back with the boat. Unfortunately, Carlton has been killed. So he takes the boat alone, and he's not really going anywhere in particular. He just knows, I have to keep moving. He ends up when he docks, he's caught by bounty hunters that recognize him because the Wallers put up wanted posters for him. So they put up a wanted poster for him, but they want him returned alive. They don't want him killed. So the bounty hunters catch him, and he's like, I have my freedom. I'm free. He's like showing them the clothes that he got from the English, and they're just like, fuck that. That's for the British. We not British. We American. We don't give a fuck. And we're taking you back because we want that bounty. But before they take him back, they cut off his foot, basically. They slice that shit off with an axe. So he can't run away because, like I said, it's been 10 years now, basically, of Kunta Kinte running away. Like, I'm getting out of here. So they cut off his foot. He wakes up and he's just in this like agonizing pain, of course. And the first face that he sees when he opens his eyes is this like beautiful black woman. And she basically says like, I'm so glad that you're going to make it. And she's using her medicine to heal him. And she says, my medicine works better than Dr. Waller's, because it turns out that he's back on the Waller plantation, but instead of the original plantation that he was on, he's on the brother of his original master's. And the brother is a doctor, Dr. Waller. So he's on Dr. Waller's plantation, but this black woman named Belle is using her own medicine to heal him because she says it works better. And I loved that because I felt like it was a nod to black women as healers, to the fact that we have always healed ourselves and others, and also a nod to the fact that a lot of the times white medicine doesn't work for us. A lot of the times, black people have this fear and this mistrust of doctors, and especially here in America, where doctors have experimented on us, where they've used us for all types of tests and genetic tests, like to test out syphilis, and the Henrietta Lacks story where they harvested her cells, without her permission, and they still use her cells to this day. So I thought it was also a great kind of nod to that, the fact that black women are healers, and that we have always stepped in where traditional medicine has failed, where white medicine has failed, where mainstream medicine has failed. We've stepped in and we've kind of healed ourselves and healed others. So I thought that was great. Fiddler is also there because Dr. Waller took Fiddler as well as Kunta because, as I said, Kunta is kind of like Fiddler's charge. At this point, they're kind of like a package deal, like Fiddler is basically his father. He literally says to Kunta, like, I can't even believe, like, that you're still alive. Like, you are my warrior son, So while Kunta's healing up, the new overseer of the new farm comes to fuck with him. He's like, listen, I heard about you, how you always running away, how you always stirring up trouble, and I'm ready for you. And he, like, grabs Kunta's foot, his entry, and he, like, screams. And then Belle comes in, and she's like, oh, what's up, overseer? I have to give him his medicine, so you gotta go. Now, throughout this whole episode, Belle runs shit. It's basically insinuated that Belle is the one running this farm. She is a voice in the doctor's ear. She's a voice in his wife's ear. She's a voice in the overseer's ear. She knows how to kind of like play up her strengths and play her position and intervene. She intervenes at numerous points throughout this episode when things are kind of about to go south for Kunta or for other slaves. She comes in and she kind of smooths things over and she makes these suggestions and she's just like a boss. And I just like love seeing that because it's like, that's what black women do. That's what we do. Like, shit about to fucking hit the fan. We come in, we smooth it over, we make it okay. Again, healing. And we run shit and we're strong and we're powerful and Belle, but we're also soft because Belle is also very soft and they give her a full range of emotions. We see her happy, we see her sad, we see her angry, we see her fucking stand up to Kunta when he fucking tries to play her multiple times and disrespect her. We see they give her a really well-rounded personality and character, and I just loved it. We see her vulnerable. I just loved it. It was just like a great depiction of a woman and a black woman, and especially a black woman during this time, again, holding on to her own sense of agency as best she can, her own sense of dignity as best she can, her own sense of pride and respect as best she can, and kind of keeping everything together and keeping this family together and fucking keeping this plantation together, like, it was amazing to see that. And I have to say, it also kind of, it's going to sound so weird, there were lots of parts of this shit and also later episodes that reminded me of Lemonade. And kind of the whole concept that I kind of do feel like Beyonce was trying to get at in terms of Black women keeping things together and the things that we do. Yeah. So moving on. Sorry guys, I'm trying to like talk quick and like get through this quick. 24 minutes. Okay, I'm trying to get through it. So Belle's healing him. She brings him a crutch and some boots specially made for his wound, and he kicks out. He tries to like kick her as she puts them on, and she takes him to task for being a fucking asshole. She's like, listen, I've seen people in your situation. I've seen people worse off than you. I've seen people better off than you, but I've seen people that somehow they find the strength to keep moving forward, and they are the real warriors. They're talking about you, his warrior son, but what kind of warrior just sits here and fucking waits to die? Like, you're low as fuck. Like, she doesn't say you're low as fuck, but, like, she basically rips him a new one, but at the same time, she's also his strength in this moment when he wants to die, telling him about the people that are hurt worse and find the strength to go on, and standing up to him. She says, like, I will never let you treat me like massa in a temper. Like, I'm not gonna let you disrespect me. Like, I'm just not gonna do this. Like, I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to be strong for you in this moment. So, like, let's go. Like, let's get this shit done. And then he's sitting there pouting like a child, and she dips out. And I just, again, I thought that was a really powerful scene of showing her just, like, again, her being just this, like, amazing character in this amazing moment, and, like, showing, like, okay, they want to say that I'm a slave, and I'm this, and I'm that, but guess what? Like, you still not gonna talk to me, however. It's just not gonna happen. It's just not gonna happen, especially not in this moment when all I'm trying to do is help you. So I just loved Belle's character so much. She was just awesome. She was just amazing. So basically what ends up happening is Kunta gets over it. He gets over it. Like, sorry, like, they cut your foot off, but you're not gonna die. You have people that love you. You have people that are trying to take care of you, even in this fucked up ass situation. Fiddler, like, carries him out to the horse pen and, like, drops him on his ass in there, makes him, like, get up and, like, walk back to, like, the house himself and apologize to Belle. And even at that moment when Fiddler, like, drops him off in the pen, Belle is the one that takes him the crutch so that he can, like, get back to the house. Like, she's doing a lot for him. She's cleaning his wounds. There's a scene where she sets up Kunta to be the new driver because the old driver ran away, disappeared, ran off, who knows, she sets it up in that her and Fiddler, like, hatch this plan where they let a horse go from the stables, and Kunta tames it and rides it even with one foot, and the master's like, oh, you have, like, a gift with horses, and Belle is, like, right there in his ear, like, yeah, he does have a gift with horses. He should be the new driver, and he should be the new horse trainer. And again, we see that even though these white people, like, thought they were in charge and thought they were running shit, we see the way that the slaves had all these I want to say machinations, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right, machinations going to kind of, like, make shit work and make shit run. And we see the influence that Belle is exerting over the master. Like, she's literally right there in his ear, putting ideas in his ear, And the overseer does not like that. He can kind of, like, see what's going on. So later on in the episode, we see that he goes to Kunta's, like, bed, and he, like, pulls him out of bed, and he, like, takes him out to where he lynched the last driver. We see him hanging from a tree in a field, and the overseer says that he lynched him for planning a revolt. And he's like, are you going to be the same way? Like, are you going to be trouble? And he's like, I wonder if I should kill you right here and now. And what happens? Belle arrives again to save Kunta Kinte's ass again. And she's like, oh my God, the baby of a patient could arrive at any minute, so Kunta really has to be ready to drive to the doctor. And the overseer's like, okay, but don't you see us having a conversation? And she's like, no, but really, we have to, like, get back, like, right now. And I was watching that shit like, yo, Belle is running shit. Like, she has eyes everywhere. She's looking out for him. She's like, she has shit, like, moving and shaking, you know? And then we see her cry. She cries upon seeing, you know, the dead driver. Again, she's not just like a strong black woman. And you know, we do see her display this range of emotions. We do see her cry. We do see her feel fear. She says, like, I was so afraid about, like, what he might do to you. Like, we see her display this full range of emotions. It was just, like, so amazing to see. So then we skip forward in time again, and 1 year later, Kunta's still the driver. And we see that the doctor is having an affair with his brother's wife, who was Elizabeth Waller, who was the original woman that gave Kunta Kinte the new name. So they're having an affair, and Kunta is the only one that knows because he's the driver. And then it ends up that she gets pregnant. So around this point is when we see the white settlers celebrating the end of the Revolutionary War and their freedom from the British, and to just see them proclaiming that they're free and, like, long live freedom, you know, in the midst of enslaved black people, is just, like, the cruelest of irony. And I will definitely say that, like, this scene alone makes this miniseries worth watching. Like, I was watching it like, I've never seen anything like this displayed on my TV. Like, they're clearly showing, like, the cognitive dissonance of white people. Like, they're clearly putting it out there how white people are and how they fucking act. And Fiddler says at one point, like, ain't it wonderful? White folks finally got their freedom. And, like, they all laugh. It's like Fiddler, Belle, and, like, Kunta Kinte. And they're, like, making fun of them. Again, black people already developing that wit, that snark to kind of get us through the pain, like, laugh to keep from crying. But it's like, ain't it wonderful? White folks finally got their freedom. And it's like the same thing now. Like, white people just being so fucking ridiculous with everything that they just say and do. Like, they're ridiculous ass people. And to see that displayed on screen, how ridiculous they are, and then to see, you know, these black people making fun of them was awesome. And again, that scene alone is worth watching the whole series. And as the episode continues, we kind of see Belle and Kunta. They kind of, like, become best friends. Belle has this really keen, probing mind that forces Kunta to kind of think about things differently. She's really the first person that we've seen him meet that forces him to think about someone other than himself, and the fact that he wants to get home, which is something you don't really notice when you're watching. But then when, like, the character of Belle is introduced, you realize that, like, yeah, Kunta has been very, like, single-minded, which is totally understandable. But we see her kind of introduce this different personality and these different types of thoughts and these different types of ideas, and, you know, there's a balance there between them. There's a yin and a yang between them that's introduced and that we basically see play out. And another great scene that shows the yin and yang between them is, so there's a pregnant girl, and she ends up delivering her baby out in the fields, and she dies. And we see Belle and Kunta pray over her body. They pray for her soul. And we see Belle, she's praying in English to Jesus. And we see Kunta, he's right next to her, and he's praying in Mandinka. He's, like, doing his Mandinka ritual. And it's like a really nice mesh of, again, the yin and the yang, the African and the American that you see tangible on the screen. It's kind of like watching it and seeing where we came from, even though this is fiction. But, you know, you see it and you see where we came from, and you kind of see how our culture was kind of born with, you know, a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So it was awesome. It was great. It was amazing. And they end up getting married. The baby that was born ends up being as a son, Noah. We'll get back to Noah. Belle and Kunta end up getting married. And one of the things that they say when he proposes to her, he sings a Mandinka courting song for her, which is really, really beautiful. And Fiddler's playing the violin. And then he tells her, you know, when I first arrived in America, I decided to close my heart to stay strong, to survive. And when I first opened my eyes, the first thing that I saw was you. And I was in all this pain, and I depended on you, but I didn't see you. I didn't see you at first. And now I do. And you're just like smart and beautiful and amazing, and you're just the most amazing person I've ever met, and I want to be with you. And I thought that was a really important line, because too many people depend on Black women for survival, but don't see us. They don't see us. They don't see our moods, our emotions, our vulnerability, our kindness, our intelligence, our beauty, our hearts, our souls. They don't see us. They depend on us. They depend on us for survival, but they don't see us. So to kind of hear that elucidated and hear those words, I think I'm going to look up who wrote the script, like who wrote the screenplay, because there were some really great lines that I was just like, yes. And then Kunta Kinte even says, like, but I see you now. Like, I see you. I see you. And whatever happens, this matters. And, our love matters. And again, that's agency. That's, we're making this choice for ourselves to be together. Nobody's going to influence it. Nobody's going to take it away from us. So they get married. Kunta has these blue clothes on. He's kind of like fashioned these clothes or found these clothes, and kind of he's clearly like got these clothes and kind of like fashioned them like the ones he would wear in Juffure. Like they're clearly American, i.e. European style clothes, but he has something like wrapped around his head, and they're blue. There's like a real importance with these like blue clothes. They have a celebration, and then at the end of as the celebration is going on, it turns out that Elizabeth's baby that is insinuated is the doctor's baby, Dr. Waller's baby, is that she's going into labor. So she's like, Kunta, I need you to drive. He's like, Kunta, I need you to drive me to my brother's farm because my brother's wife is having a baby. So Kunta takes him. It's a girl that they named Missy. Missy? Yes, Missy. I want to say that's what they name her, Missy, which I'm guessing is Melissa, because I know that's normally how that works. They name her Missy, and then on the way back, the doctor's like, oh my God, like, I'm so excited, and just like, my heart is just like so full, and this and that. And then Kunta says, like, I'm sure you'd love that child as if she were your own. And the Dr. Waller slaps him. He like slaps him, and he's like, how dare you fucking talk to me this way on the day of my niece's birth or whatever. And Kunta's like, I didn't even mean it that way. Kunta did mean it that way. It was some shade, but it just kind of like, again, impressed upon Kunta, like, oh, these fucking white people, dog, like these fucking white people. Like, he's enraged when he gets back home. He's like, I was struck on my wedding day, like, what the fuck, like, I should have killed him, this and that. And Belle's like, listen, it's over now, like, you're back, that's all that matters. And Kunta says, it will never be over. It will never be over. And I just thought to myself, like, it can really feel like that, right? Like, it can feel like that even now in 2016, being Black in America. Like, the injustices will never be over. It could really feel like that. Like, every day is like a new day of fucking fuckery. And again, it's amazing to see Kunta hold on to his dignity and his pride despite the inhuman, I just looked at the time, despite the inhuman circumstances that they're in. And again, like the same for Fiddler, for Belle, for all the slaves, they're more dignified than their owners, who are cruel. They're cruel, they're savage, they're beasts, they're animals, they're mean, they're violent, they lash out at any moment. And there's a clear parallel that they are the animals who are trying to pass off their animalistic nature and their savagery and this idea that they can just do whatever they want on the enslaved. They pretend to be so dignified, but the very nature of what they're doing is low and inhumane. And that is, I would say that is a clear message also of Roots. So Kunta's going off, and Belle's like, listen, we're going to have a baby, so you got to chill. Like, you must chill. Like, you have to chill. What's going to happen if, you kill this nigga and they kill you, and what's going to happen to me and this kid, basically. So Kunta's like, listen, I'm going to chill, I'm going to relax, I swear I'm going to protect you, I'm ready. And then he goes out and we see him pray in the same way that his father did when he was born. And it's just really nice to see Kunta still holding on to these traditions, these Mandinka traditions, even though now, again, he's been in America 13 years at this point. So they have a daughter, Kizzy, who I love, who's my fave. And in the third portion, she's played by Anika Noni Rose, who I love her. So they have a daughter, Kizzy, and Kunta's surprised. He's like, oh, I always thought that I would have a son. I thought that I would have a warrior, because in his tradition, the men are the warriors and the women are not. So it's interesting that we end up, by the end of this episode, seeing that flipped on its head, because after he does the naming ceremony, they end up naming the baby. They name the baby Kizzy, which means stay put, but not stay slave, in Kunta's language. And then he presents Kizzy to this guy, and then he ends up raising her as a warrior. So then we flash forward again to Kizzy. She's like it's like 6 years later or something like that, and Belle has taught Kizzy how to count, and she has to remind her, count in your head, because she's not supposed to know how, because she counts out loud. She also speaks Mandinka, so this would be what is that, a first generation child of an immigrant, an African immigrant, and a Black American, and she kind of represents, obviously he wasn't an immigrant before anybody even tries. I just mean in like a modern day context, that's what this would be. And she kind of houses both cultures inside of her. She speaks English and she speaks Mandinka. She can count and she can count in Mandinka, you know? We see that the little white girl, Missy, has like, she's the same age as Kizzy, and she's like adopted her kind of as a plaything. And she's nice to Kizzy in the way that you're nice to a pet. She loves Kizzy in the way that you love a pet. Like, there's this casual disregard for Kizzy's worth as a human being. She takes things out of her hand. She talks over her. She talks down to her. She gives her items that are soiled or damaged. And, you know, she treats her a certain way. Now, again, as a 6-year-old child, she's 6. Right? She doesn't mean any harm. She means no harm, but she's still acting within the confines of white supremacist systems that have already instilled within her a sense of superiority over Black people at the age of 6. Already, even adults too, like Belle and Kunta, who we see her, she doesn't listen to them. She treats them the same way that she treats Kizzy. She's white, so she gotta be right. And these, my friends, are microaggressions. And these are the same behaviors that we see playing out today of subversive disrespect and undermining. Missy was 6. She, like I said, she didn't mean anything by it. Because you always hear people say, like, I don't understand microaggressions because, no, they're not intentionally being racist. Like, Missy wasn't intentionally being racist. Like, she's 6. But she's already been affected. Again, she's acting within the confines of these white supremacist systems that have already instilled in her a sense of superiority. And we still see those dynamics, disrespect, undermining, playing out today, you know? The definition of microaggressions are brief and commonplace, daily verbal, behavioral, or environmental indignities, whether intentional or unintentional, that communicate hostile, derogatory, or negative racial slights and insults towards people of color, right? I don't want this soiled dress. I can't give it. I'm white. I don't want this soiled dress. I can't give it to my other white friend because she's going to be offended. Like, why are you giving me something soiled? But I can give it to you, Black person, because you exist on a lower level than me, and you're just going to be happy to get something nice regardless. You don't exactly mean anything by that. You don't mean anything bad by that, but you're sending a message. Brief, everyday exchanges that send denigrating messages to certain individuals of their group membership is another definition of microaggressions. Daryl Dwayne Sue, who's a psychologist that's written extensively about microaggressions, says that microaggressions generally happen below the level of awareness of well-intentioned members of the dominant culture. Like, you don't even know you're doing it. You don't even mean anything by it, but you're still being racist. And we see that play out in this episode of Roots with the way that Missy treats Kizzy, which I liked. I liked that they showed that, because you can watch that and you can see, like, oh, she just, like, took that shit out of her hand. She's talking over Kunta. She's talking over Belle. She clearly doesn't give a fuck about these people because they're black. She doesn't have any type of respect for them. She's not overtly hostile towards them, but it's still a form of racism. And again, the microaggressions still matter, even more so now in 2016, because white people can't outright fucking call you a nigger, but they can still put these microaggressions against you. So, Kizzy oversees a slave being baptized, and she ends up asking Belle and Kunta about God and heaven and hell, and if she asks if their owners will go to hell. Kunta says that hell is not enough for them, and Belle says not to worry because God will take care of them, right? And again, this was a common refrain that got introduced into the black, American community during slavery, a refrain that we still hear repeated now, this idea of, like, black people being capable of, like, divine forgiveness, and this belief that, like, God is going to take care of us, and God is going to deliver us regardless. As I've always said, God helps those who fucking help themselves, so help yourself out of bad situations, and don't just, oh, well, I'm just, like, stay here and chill because, like, God's going to punish them. This is an idea and a concept that was introduced to us during slavery times by Christian, slave owners that didn't want us to do shit but fucking sit on our asses and wait for fucking God to appear. God helps those who help themselves, is all I have to say to that. So as we see Kizzy grow and Missy grow, we also see the boy Noah growing up, and Kizzy and Noah kind of fall in love slowly, which Kunta does not like. We see him go into straight up overprotective dad mode, which again is nice. Malachi Kirby's great actor. He does a great job with, starting this role off with Kunta as like a rebellious teenager, and then a rebellious man, and then, maturing into this like overprotective father figure. And he teaches Kizzy not to believe in God, which we see later on when Kizzy is grown, when she's portrayed by Anika Noni Rose. She teaches her son George not to believe in God, which is funny because George ends up with a preacher's wife, and they disrespect the hell out of her, a preacher's daughter, sorry, and they disrespect the hell out of her father because they like don't believe, right? And we see a scene where Missy is telling Kizzy like, oh, God, Mom wants to, like, send me away to finishing school, like, pray for me. And Kizzy says, like, oh, God sure has taken good care of us Negroes. I'm going to pray for you, like, Missy has this mouth on her, and she has this brain, and she's thinking, and she's having these ideas. And, again, we see Kunta basically train her as a warrior. We get a training montage in this shit of him putting her through the exact same training that he went through, so she could be smart, so she could be strong, so she can be resilient, so that again she can read. Missy secretly, the white girl Missy secretly teaches her how to read while she's learning on I need somebody to practice with, and you my little pet, so you gotta know type shit. And we just see Kizzy grow up to be this really capable young woman, and then the portrayal that we see in the third episode of her as a really capable adult is great character depiction, a great character arc. We have really amazingly well-written black female characters, which is awesome. And again, not just like slave narratives, but like just really great, well-rounded, well-fleshed out women, people, personalities, actions, characters. So towards the end of the episode, we see again Missy kind of asserting this dominance over Kizzy. There's a scene where they're reading a book. They find an anatomy book in Dr. Waller's office, and they're going through it. And Missy sits on Kizzy's lap, and she literally sits on her like a chair. And then as they're going through the book, Missy demands to see Kizzy's pubic hair against her will. And again, you just get this clear sense of, as friendly as they are, having grown up together, Missy has all the power in the relationship, and she asserts her dominance. Again, it's like the love you have for a pet. You care for your pet. You love your pet. But at the end of the day, you're the boss, and the pet is the pet. Right? you're the boss and the pet is the pet. She implies ownership over Missy's body. I want to see your pubic hair, so show it to me. I want to sit on you, so I'm going to sit on you. You know, there's another part where Noah arrives to fetch Missy because it's time to go home because she's at Dr. Waller's, and she's sexually predatory towards him, joking about pubic hair and peach fuzz, and, you know, again, it's good-natured, but it's still a microaggression, implying ownership of his body along with Kizzy's body. And white people love, you know, white people, especially white women, love to act like, oh, ha, 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 oh, it's just jokes, and we're joking about penis size, and, you know, we're joking about walking on the wild side, and it's just, and mandingos, and it's just jokes, you know, and it's like, none of this stuff is jokes, and all of it has roots in slavery. All of it, you know? So we're getting to the end. Kizzy's getting older. She's like 15 or 16. Kunta tells Kizzy, like, you know, they can put the chains on your body, but never let them put the chains on your mind. He kind of gives her this talk where he tells her, you know, this country is always going to be dangerous for you, but you are a warrior, and that if you ever have to kill someone, kill a Tubob, which is a white person, you must do it, but only if you're prepared to die yourself. If you're prepared to die yourself, you're gonna be all right, basically. So powerful, such a powerful statement, and kind of like I talked about in my last video, so many people are afraid to stand up, are afraid to, you know, they're just afraid, they're just full of fear, they're not prepared, maybe not to die, but like even that, like they're just not prepared to do what might be necessary to not only survive, but to thrive in this country and to not be a mental slave. And then Kunta gives her beads that he carved. We already saw in episode 1 that his mother gave him these beads when he came of age and became a warrior. So he gives those beads to Kizzy, like, you are a warrior. Like, you are my warrior child. Like, you are my warrior daughter. So later on, there's a hurricane, and Noah wants to run away during the hurricane. He begs Kizzy to come with him because, like I said, they're kind of in love by this point. He begs her to come with him. You know, at first they originally leave it kind of like open-ended and ambiguous about whether she went with him. But it turns out that she didn't go. She stayed home, but she forged him this paper, this road paper, saying that he had permission to be on the road. Before he leaves, Kunta tells him, like, listen, you gotta, like, chill dealing with these white people. They're gonna treat you like an animal until you strike like one, and then they're gonna kill you like one. Best line of the episode. They treat you like an animal until you strike like one, and they kill you like one. Because, again, that is how white people still operate even now. They treat you like shit until you lash out at them, and then they say you were the aggressor, and you were the one that attacked them, and they had to shoot you down like a dog because you had superhuman strength, and you were a demon, and you hulked out. Even though they treated you that way, they taunted you, they tried to get a reaction out of you. That's why it's better to just completely disengage from them and not even deal with them at all. Like, because they're going to treat you like an animal until you strike like one, and then they're going to kill you like one, and they're going to leave your body in the street, right? Or they're going to hit you with the microaggressions at work. Oh, can I touch your hair? Oh, look at your butt. Oh, when you walk in, hey girl, instead of saying hello, good morning. They're treating you a certain way until you act a certain way, until you spaz, and then you're fired. Not them, you, right? You can't let white people fucking get to you. Just disengage. Just ignore the shit out of them. Just whatever. So, Noah runs away in the hurricane. Even though the overseer is told to bring him alive, they find him with the dogs. Again, with these dogs, someone left a comment talking about how dogs are a white person's best friend, man's best friend, and how they've never been able to look at dogs a certain way, especially being from the South, because of, like, the way that the dogs were used to hunt down slaves. Man, I never thought about that. I will never be able to look at a dog the same way again. So they chase Noah down with the dogs. They find him in a shed. The overseer says don't kill him because he's young and healthy, and we already know that he wants to, like, breed him, increase his stock with Kizzy. But they kill him. He runs, and they kill him. They shoot him and kill him. And then it turns out that they find the paper that Missy forged for him to get on the road. And when they confronted Missy about it, like, Missy, they found the paper that Kizzy forged for him to get on the road. And when they confront Missy about it, she admits that she taught Kizzy how to read. So they sell Kizzy. And it is just a heart-wrenching scene. Like, they sell her further south. They sell her to North Carolina. And they blame themselves for, like, the slaves for, like, doing it to themselves. Like, well, you learn how to read and you know you're not supposed to know how to read, and you forged a paper for someone knowing that you weren't supposed to forge a paper, and he tried to run away knowing that he's supposed to be a slave, so all of you did it to yourselves. And she says, like, no, you did it to me. You did it to my family. Because Dr. Waller's like, oh, and your poor family, like, look at your mother. Because, like, Belle gets hysterical. She's, like, on her knees begging, like, please, 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 like, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. We learned earlier in the episode that she had a husband and 2 children before that were sold away from her. And she's like, listen, if I lose another child, like, I don't think I'm going to be able to take it. Like, please don't do this, don't do this. And instead of feeling any type of responsibility, personal responsibility, compassion, empathy, morals, instead of feeling anything in his heart for this person on her knees begging, please don't take my child away, the doctor says to Kizzy, look what you've done to your family. Just completely sidesteps any personal responsibility, which, again, white people still do to this day. They act like they can't take personal responsibility for shit. Like, nothing is their fault. Everybody's everybody else's fault. Fucking look at Brock Turner. Everything is everybody else's fault. Nothing is ever their fault. Everything is because of something that somebody else did, because they've never had to take responsibility for any of their actions. There's no accountability. We haven't even gotten accountability for slavery yet in this country, and the fact that we literally built this country and built the economy of this country. No, zero accountability, zero. Going all the way back to slavery times. Seeds that were sown back then that have grown into these huge trees now, right? So I gotta be right. I don't have to take responsibility for shit. That's on you. I'm white. I'm the dominant group. I could say and do whatever I want. And if you don't do what I want, that's on you. Not me. You. And that's just the way the society conditions them to be until they hit a point where they either decide they want to consciously fight against it and work against it and unlearn it or not. You know? So it's just a heartbreaking scene. Kizzy's taken away. She's taken to North Carolina. She's taken to Tom Lee's farm, and Tom Lee is a white devil. He is a demon. He is an Inquinsuocha. He is a Tubab. He is a devil. As soon as Kizzy gets to the farm, she's 15 or 16, he just violently rapes her, and it is just horrific. After already seeing the cruelty of, like, splitting up families, of Kizzy being taken away from her parents, being taken away from her home where she's been her whole entire life. There's also a part where Missy's like, how could you do this to me? How could you do this to me? Like, I was going to have my mom buy you so that we could be together forever. Again, still this idea of, like, I was going to have my mom buy you, and I have all the power, and I'm in control, and you ruined my plan to own you, so you did something wrong to me. White people still have this mindset even now. They're like children. They're like spoiled children during temper tantrums when they don't get what they want, because for centuries they got whatever they want. Gimme, 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 gimme. It's mine, it's mine, it's mine, it's mine. You know? And so now when you say, no, little Timmy, you can't do that, you can't say the N-word, they lose it. And that's what we see happen on a larger scale in this episode of Roots. Again, all these ideas and all these concepts are just cycling around year after year, generation after generation, generation after generation. And people don't want to deal with this, which just, like, keeps on going and keeps on perpetuating in the cycle. And I keep talking about that. People have to, like, wake up and, like, consciously decide they don't want to be a part of this cycle anymore. So, anyways, Tom Lee, she gets to Tom Lee's. He immediately rapes her. She gets pregnant. We skip from the rape to her having the child, who she's completely traumatized by the rape, and she's completely traumatized by being forced to, like, bear this child from the rape. She doesn't even want to touch, like, she cringes away when they even try to give her the baby. And then later on, she attempts to drown both herself and him. She, like, goes out into the water, and she's just like, listen, like, I don't know why this happened to me. I can't fucking deal. And I've read reviews that kind of say that it echoed back to Beloved, and which is an amazing book by Toni Morrison, and also they made a great movie out of it, starring Oprah. And a lot of people, and Elise Neal was in it, also playing Denver, and they say that, you know, this echoes back to Beloved, and this echoes back to this idea of like suicide as a way out for slaves, and especially for Black female slaves and Black women who are just like putting up with like so much just mentally, and it's just like, I can't even have my children in this world. I'm just gonna fucking end it. I'm just gonna like end it, because in Beloved she attempts to kill her children, and she ends up only one survives. Denver survives, but her other child, Beloved, dies, and I think she also has a son that dies. But anyways, yeah, this idea of, you know, suicide is a way out, death is a way out. Jenna trying to jump off the side of the boat in episode 1, you know, you're trying to take everything from me, but like this life and this heart beating is still my own, and if I can fucking end that shit myself, then I can end that shit myself, and that's my choice, which is just a really powerful thing to even think about, right? So Kizzy goes onto the water with George, who the massa Tom Lee names after his father, George, and she's getting ready to drown him, and she just like remembers her parents, and she remembers Noah, and she remembers the love that she felt for them, and she remembers her father saying, never let them put the chains on your mind, you know, like you have to live, like never let them put the chains on your mind, you know, remember where you come from, remember who you are. And she basically, from thinking about the past, finds the strength to live, and finds the will and the inner strength to go on, from remembering, you know, like I came from a father who was a warrior, and I came from, you know, this strong mother, and I came from this place where despite what was going on, I still felt this love, and I had this love for this boy Noah, and he loved me, and I'm gonna use that well to fucking push on, even though these circumstances are unlivable. And someone left a comment that said, you know, Roots is also a testament to Black love and family. Kunta and Belle and Kizzy and Noah and some of the other couples and family members that we come across down the line. And they said Black people have and always will love each other despite how brutalized we are. And I wrote back like, yes, the importance of Black love and family dynamics to get through hell was also made very much clear, even making family with people that aren't your blood, like Fiddler and Kunta, and using that well of love and family and dynamics and the love that you have for your fellow Black person to keep pushing forward is like a big fucking thing in this series. And again, it's just really beautiful to see and witness. And that was the closing. The closing was her in the water with the baby, and she holds the baby up to the sky, and she names, well, the baby already has a name, George, but, you know, she kind of like goes through the naming ceremony with him of, you know, you are my son, you know, your grandparents are these people, Kunta and Belle, and you are important, and you matter, and this is the only thing greater than you is the sky. And it was especially after like the harshness of the rape, jumping to that scene I felt was really important, and ending on that power, putting that power back in Belle's hands rather than just like ending with her like rape and her like being powerless. I thought that was a really, really important, provocative ending. And that was a great episode. I think that episode 2 was my favorite episode. I watched like the scene of like the training montage like at least 3 times. I watched it like over and over and over again. I just like loved it. I loved seeing like the dynamic between Kunta and his daughter, and they're like speaking to Mandinka even though they're here in America, and he has her like going through mother, father, grandmother, grandfather, and daddy who loves me, and I just like loved it. I really did love this episode a lot. So, oh my gosh, this video is so long. I'm going to have lots of links in the description box. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. I'll be back with part 3. Food for thought as always. Sorry it's so long. Thank you for watching. Peace.